Justice is the basic thing that should be present in our lives. The presence of a fair law between people is the basic thing to prevent any conflicts in society. But the sad thing is when a person resorts to the law to help him, and the result is the opposite, and he is unable to obtain his rights because of the presence of individuals within the authority who do not know the consequences of siding with one party at the expense of another party while ruling between people. Of course, these behaviors lead to a dangerous trend, especially when a person feels that he will lose everything even though he is the owner of the right and cannot obtain his rights. Then people may resort to strange methods to obtain their rights as a result of the psychological pressure they are experiencing. And this may end in catastrophic matters and sometimes murders. And this is exactly what happened to Marvin. He decided to resort to harsh and destructive methods to obtain his rights when he was subjected to great injustice by the authorities. Let us learn about the exciting details that prompted Marvat to resort to the last solution, which is violence. And what is the method in which he took revenge on all the people who were the reason for his exposure to injustice? Our story today happened on June 4th, 2004. Marvin Hemier, who is 40 years old, moved in 1992 to a small town called Granby in the state of Colorado, and he had no friends in this town before. He had great experience in car mechanics, including modification and repair, and he even possessed the skill of blacksmithing because he had worked as a blacksmith for a long time. He moved to the city of Granby because he wanted to buy land and establish a blacksmith shop there. And he actually bought one of the lands, and he was known among the people, according to some testimonies, as a hard-working person who was kind to people. He had great morals and did not assault anyone throughout his stay in the city, and the days went well with Marvin. One day there was a piece of land next to Marvin's store, so he decided to buy it for $42,000 in order to expand his business in some way. After a short period of time, he received an offer from a family named Doshev to buy the piece of land next to his store at a price that reached $250,000. At first he agreed, but later he raised the price to $375,000 and then returned and raised the price to $1 million to agree to sell all his property to a family. But the family refused to pay $1 million due to the large amount requested. In the end, he is the owner of the land and has the right to request the amount he wants. Shortly after, a new store was opened next to his current store, and he received a decision stating that the city council had decided to change the road plans, and the city authorities agreed to establish a huge cement factory in the space adjacent to his land and his current store without Marvin's approval, because this factory would close the road leading to his workplace and would stop all of his work. It will also obstruct the way for cars to enter and exit the place. The cement factory is huge and has large transport vehicles and many workers. It will also produce a lot of dust. This means that this is a huge project, and its work will almost stop when it is built. Therefore, he decided to submit an objection to the city council in the hope that they will stop this project or that they will open a special road to his shop so that people can reach it after the road was closed because of this factory. But unfortunately, the authorities absolutely refused to object to Marvin and build a private road on it. So Marvin decided to buy a large bulldozer and then returned and applied for approval to open a road on his own behalf and bear all the expenses of its construction so that he could continue his work, but the authorities also rejected the proposal. For the second time, what even made the issue worse was that during the construction of the factory, construction workers separated Marvin's shop from the sewer lines, and the authorities fined Marvin for not connecting his shop to the sewer lines. In fact, I do not know how municipal officials think the value of the fines reached $2,500. However, Marvin paid the full amount of dues he owed in an attempt to obtain his rights through the law, in addition to thousands of dollars in lawsuit costs, but to no avail. The authorities returned to sending him orders to connect his place to the sewage networks, which may cost about $100,000. Otherwise they will impose fines of $100 a day, or his entire store will be closed. In fact, the issue is clear that some bribes were involved in order to get him out of his place and take over his store to complete the construction of the cement factory and change the entire layout of the street. In addition to all of this, the Granby City newspaper wrote an article criticizing Marvin in a bad manner and accusing him of disrupting the construction of a large factory in the city. Unfortunately, all circumstances were against him, as if the entire city was conspiring against him. In fact, Marvin's dream of regaining his rights under the law, unfortunately, was impossible in reality because the city authorities are trying to besiege him more day after day. In the end, Marvin had no way to achieve justice other than his own way after he had exhausted all peaceful methods with municipal officials. Therefore, by using all the experience of the previous years in blacksmithing and steelwork, he was able to modify a huge bulldozer to transform it into an armored vehicle in the form of a tank in every sense of the word. It weighed more than 50 tons, and it was equipped from the front and the sides with steel that is resistant to bullets and even explosions, with a thickness of up to 12 millimeter. Therefore, with the presence of armor, it was necessary for him to place a front camera so that he could see the road while driving. He also attached 2 rifles to the front of the armored vehicle in case he needed them to be immediately ready to fire. The promised day came, which was June 4th, 2004. Marvin left his shop while the authorities received calls from citizens in Colorado stating that there was a person driving an armored vehicle and destroying buildings and shops. Of course, this person was Marvin. Marvin prepared a list and wrote down the names of the property of the people who were being wronged because of them, and he started one by one with a huge rampage scene, just like a Hollywood movie. Marvin's first target was the cement factory, and he began destroying the main builders there and demolishing the walls there, because it was the main and first cause of all his suffering. After completing it, I headed to the main road to the second target, which was a store that sold electronic devices and computers. He destroyed a large part of it, and then I headed to the main street of the city, turned left, entered a side street, and headed to the city building, and also destroyed a large part of it. He continued and destroyed the police department, which is located next to the municipal building, and destroyed the cars. Which was parked there, and he completed the plan he was making to the Bank of Liberty and destroyed part of it. The scene was a terrifying frenzy, as if it were a real movie on the ground, because Marvin, in his opinion, was exposed to injustice because of these institutions or the people who own them. The next target was the Akhbar al-Madina newspaper, which attacked him in its daily articles, so he destroyed part of the newspaper building and pushed the cars into the middle of the street. Of course, the authorities and police cars tried to stop Marvin, but to no avail because the steel armor had no effect at all on the huge armored vehicle that he made. The next target was the mayor's house, which was the first and main reason for everything that led him to this moment. Therefore, he destroyed the mayor's house, who had died a while ago, and Marvin was not satisfied with that and continued on his way. And in an attempt to stop him in another way, the police forces were put in his way. A large tractor tried to stop him, but Marvin's armored vehicle was hit by the police tractor, as if it was a small car that had no weight. Meanwhile, the police and special forces were trying to fire bullets, but to no avail to penetrate the steel armor he had built for revenge. While he was destroying one of the steel buildings, Marvin's armored vehicle stopped and its engine stopped rotating. In the end, unfortunately, Marvin decided to end his life by shooting himself inside the cockpit of the armored vehicle that he made with his own hands to regain his rights from the people who wronged him and destroyed his life. In the end, no one was harmed and no deaths were recorded in this operation carried out by Marvin, but the destruction it caused was great, and the authorities estimated the material damage at more than $7 million from buildings, cars, and government property. Even some people consider Marvin a hero. He was named Killdozer after the great pressure he endured for a long time from the authorities, as they were responsible for the disastrous outcome that brought Marvin to this sad end. In fact, it is certainly a sad ending for Marvin. But in your opinion, was Marvin's behavior a normal reaction when he was subjected to great injustice? Or is this normal behavior for someone who was able to obtain his rights through the law and had no other solution? Tell me in the comments what you would do if you went through the same thing. I hope you liked our story today, And do not forget to activate the notifications button and subscribe to the channel to receive all the upcoming exciting stories.